I'm not usually a birthday guy. Never have been. The cake's fine. Hugs are fine. But attention? The big banners, the toasts, the forced smiles. No thanks. Still, I'm not made of stone. When your wife of 23 years starts dropping hints, and your grown kids start acting like they're in on some big surprise, you take notice. It had started a few weeks before. My wife, Lena, started closing her laptop every time I walked into the room. She'd get that half-guilty, half-amused smirk she always had when hiding gifts. Our daughter Zoe, 20, said, "You're going to love this birthday, Dad." Seriously, even Braden, 22, who lives in his gym clothes and usually couldn't be bothered with family plans, told me, "Just be home. You'll see." I started getting hopeful. Not for anything expensive. We're not rich, but we're stable. I'm a mechanical contractor. Lena teaches middle school English. We live in Bozeman, where the winters are long, but the views make up for it. We're not fancy people, but we take care of each other. At least, I thought we did. I even cleared my schedule for the day. Told the crew I wouldn't be on site. Took the actual Friday off, my 45th birthday, for the first time in 14 years. The morning of, I woke up to a quiet house. Not unusual. Lena leaves early for work. Zoe was on winter break. Braden had supposedly gone to the gym. I made myself coffee, sat on the porch, waited for a happy birthday text, a phone call, a card taped to the fridge, something. Nothing. But I didn't panic. I figured they were waiting until later. The surprise, remember? That afternoon, I grabbed a bottle of scotch from a local distillery and picked up a rack of ribs to grill. Figured I'd treat myself while waiting for whatever they had planned. When I pulled into the driveway around 4:30 p.m., the house was empty. Again, not alarming. Until I stepped inside and saw the living room stripped of its usual clutter. No backpacks. No shoes. No jackets on the hooks. I checked the garage. Lena's car? Gone. So was Zoe's. And Braden's. No notes. No messages. I called Lena. Straight to voicemail. Called Zoe. Same. Braden? Nothing. By 6 p.m., I was sitting alone in my kitchen, ribs untouched, scotch uncorked but unsipped. Still telling myself, there has to be a reason. At 6:27 p.m., that reason showed up. In the form of a photo. An entire family group selfie. Lena, Zoe, Braden, Lena's dad Gerald, and her sister Monica. They are all grinning in ski gear, standing at the base of a slope in Aspen, Colorado. The caption? Dorsey Family Shred Week. Let the slopes begin. No mention of me. No tag. No birthday. Just family. I stared at it for a long time. Then scrolled. More photos. Dinner. Hot tub. Cocktails. Zoe is making snow angels. Braden, in designer goggles he swore he couldn't afford. The whole time I sat there, cold ribs on the table, birthday scotch unopened, wondering if this was real life or some twisted sitcom pilot. Then I saw the kicker. A comment from Braden under the first photo. LOL, he'll probably just think we went to the grocery store. That night, I sat in my living room with the lights off. Not out of drama. Just habit. I didn't want the neighbors seeing me pacing. I must have stared at that photo a dozen times. Not because I couldn't believe it, but because I could. Somewhere deep in my gut, I'd known. The way they'd been whispering, dodging questions, smiling a little too widely when I asked about birthday plans. Still, I never expected this. And then there was Braden's comment. LOL, he'll probably just think we went to the grocery store. It echoed. Mocking. Casual. Like the kind of joke you make when you've completely stopped seeing someone as a person. When you've reduced them to an ATM with a mailbox. I finally opened the scotch. Not to drown anything, just to sip. To feel something warm that wasn't betrayal. At around 11 p.m., I logged into our joint credit card account. I didn't even know why. Instinct, maybe. And that's when it clicked. The plane tickets. The ski lodge deposit. The new gear Zoe had bragged about getting on holiday discount. All of it had been charged to my card. Not the one Lena usually used. Not the backup account we kept for family expenses. Mine. For $1,219 over 6 days. I opened the detailed transactions. United Airlines booking confirmation. A ski resort in Aspen I'd only ever seen in magazines. A boutique spa. Lift passes. A VIP family dining package. All under Lena's name. Paid by my income. She hadn't even used her account to hide it. I leaned back in my chair and let that sink in. They used me to pay for the vacation they excluded me from. And it wasn't like they forgot. It wasn't a missed call or a timing mistake. This had been planned, booked, coordinated. My name scrubbed from the entire operation like I was some deadbeat uncle who couldn't be trusted not to ruin the mood. And the worst part? They didn't expect me to find out. They counted on me being passive, predictable, quiet, because that's who I'd always been. The fixer, the provider, the man who never asked for much because it's enough just being together. I opened our shared calendar, checked the events Lena had added the week before. There it was, Friday in pink cursive font, dinner with Dad yellow heart. She'd put a fake placeholder. She'd wanted to throw me off. That's when something snapped in my chest. Not loud, not angry, just clean, like a wire had finally severed. This wasn't carelessness. This was strategy. And if they thought they could rewrite me out of the picture without consequence, they forgot who built the frame in the first place. People think rage is loud. It's not. The real kind, the cold, sober kind, doesn't come with yelling or broken dishes. It moves quietly. It sharpens. It plans. By the next morning, I was calm, almost disturbingly so. I woke up before sunrise, brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, a legal pad, and 3 pens. Then I started writing. Not a letter, not a rant, a list. What was mine? What was shared? What was used? First stop, accounts. I changed every password. Email, bank, Amazon, streaming services. Everything I'd lazily left open or shared for convenience. Then I opened the budget spreadsheet we'd kept in a folder called Dorsey Family Ops. Funny how official that name sounded for a system where I did all the financial planning and Lena just spent freely under the illusion of joint decisions. I reviewed every charge from the past 6 months. And that's when things got uglier. It wasn't just the vacation. It was the new laptop Zoe had, one through school nope. Hey guys, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you have any feedback. Let's go to the story. Charged to my card 2 weeks ago. It was the $700 winter coat Lena had claimed was a gift from her sister, also mine. It was Braden's fitness retreat last fall. Turns out, I funded the down payment for that too. The financial betrayal hit harder than I expected. Not because of the money. Because of the assumption. They believed, really believed, that I would just keep paying. Even after being erased from the photos, from the calendar, from their definition of family. I called our bank and separated the accounts. I called the credit card company and froze all secondary users. And then I made one more call to an attorney. Nothing extreme. Just a consultation. Just want to review some asset protections, I told her. Things have shifted in the house. She didn't ask for details. Just schedule me for the following Monday. After that, I grabbed a storage bin and went through the house. Everything personal, documents, tax forms, the title for my truck, my mom's heirloom pocket watch. I packed it all, carried it out to the shed and locked it in the gun safe. Lena always joked that I was paranoid for keeping the safe. Who's gonna rob us in Bozeman? I wasn't worried about them. I was preparing for this. By noon, I had a second list. This one wasn't about what they'd taken. It was about what I was taking back. And I wasn't going to tell them. I was going to let them feel it. Not in some dramatic explosion. In absence. The kind that creeps in when the password doesn't work. When the card is declined. When the man who always smiled and paid and said, "It's fine," just stops being there. I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted them to see the shape of the space I used to fill. They came back on a Wednesday. Mid-morning. I heard the car doors before I saw them. Zoe's uneven slam, Braden's heavy boots thumping across the porch, and Lena's familiar jingle of keys. I didn't rush to greet them. I didn't even move from the garage workbench. I was sanding an old bookshelf I'd started restoring the day after they left. Not because it needed to be done, but because I needed something to run smooth when everything else had splintered. I waited until they let themselves in. The door creaks. Shoes hit the floor. Coats rustled. Then, silence. It probably took them a full minute to realize the house felt different. Cleaner. Emptier. Calmer. I'd stripped it down. Not just the clutter. The access. Lena's favorite blanket was gone from the couch. The password to the Wi-Fi had changed. The kitchen drawers were rearranged. My mugs are in one. There's in another. Subtle, but not accidental. I finally walked in. Lena froze when she saw me. Still wearing her travel hoodie, hair pulled up like she was about to flop onto the couch for a post-trip nap. "Hey," she said, cautiously. "We're back." No hug. No apology. Not even a, "How was your week?" Just, "We're back." I nodded. Braden looked up from his phone. "Dad, Did the internet go out or something? No, I said. I changed the login. You'll need your own now. He frowned. Okay. Zoe hovered behind Lena, eyes flicking between us like she was bracing for impact. Lena cleared her throat. I know this probably looked bad. That was her opener. Not, happy birthday. Not, I'm sorry. Just damage control. I let her talk. She stumbled through a monologue full of half-excuses. It was last minute. Dad invited us. I didn't know how to say no. You're always so busy, and we thought maybe you'd enjoy some quiet time. It wasn't meant to be without you. It just happened. I said nothing. She kept going. Finally, she hit the real sentence, the one she'd been building toward. Can we just move past this? There it was. Can we move past your betrayal? Classic Lena. I finally spoke. You made that choice. Now I'm making mine. She blinked. What does that mean? It means I've spent years holding this family together with my time, my money, and my silence. And I'm done. She stared at me like I'd just spoken in another language. I don't know what you're trying to say, Graham. I stepped forward. I'm saying the man who let you take advantage of him? He's gone. The man who paid for a vacation he wasn't even invited to? Gone. The man who kept his mouth shut because he didn't want to make things uncomfortable for you. I looked her in the eye. He left the moment you posted that photo. Braden scoffed from the corner. Jesus, Dad, are you seriously this mad over a trip? I turned to him. Calm. I'm not mad. And I wasn't. I was done. Done being the backup plan. Done being the invisible backbone of a family that called me a burden behind closed doors. They didn't ask me to stay. They didn't cry. They didn't beg. Because they still didn't get it. But they would. Soon. The funny thing about being the one who holds everything together? Nobody notices you until you stop. In the days after they returned, I didn't argue. I didn't make speeches. I didn't send long texts filled with disappointment or demands. I just stopped doing it. The car Lena always said had a weird rattle. I stopped checking it. The internet bill, gas bill, water, trash pickup, all those things that magically handled themselves. I transferred them into her name. Quietly. Logged in, filled out the forms, and clicked submit. Groceries? I bought exactly what I needed for one. Milk, coffee, eggs, a loaf of bread. Their fridge snacks? Their specialty cereals and energy drinks? They vanished, one shelf clearing at a time. Braden noticed first. Why is there no food in the fridge? He asked one night, digging through empty drawers like he was on a scavenger hunt. I bought what I need, I said. You live here too, he snapped. I looked at him over my coffee. So do you? He didn't get it. Not yet. But Lena did. She felt it. The slow disassembly of the life she'd grown used to. One favor, one forgotten expectation at a time. Laundry? I did mine. Left the rest. Dishes? I washed what I used. Left their wine glasses and takeout boxes stacked in the sink. I didn't slam doors. I didn't sigh loudly. I just let the silence do what my voice couldn't. It was like watching an abandoned house begin to sag. Without maintenance, even the strongest structure crumbles. And this family? It was built on the quiet labor I gave without praise. Now, I reclaimed every minute of it. In the evenings, I started spending time at the local rec center. Took up lap swimming. Sat in the sauna. Talked to people who didn't ask me to explain myself or manage their lives. I stopped asking where they were going. Stopped texting when they were out late. Stopped waiting up for conversations that never came. I had nothing left to prove. And the more I pulled back, the more they scrambled. Lena tried to reintroduce casual sweetness. Making dinner one night. Leaving a craft beer on the counter another. I thanked her. Didn't touch either. Zoe tried to be funny. Okay, we get it. You're doing your mysterious monk thing now. I didn't laugh. Because this wasn't a bit. It wasn't a tantrum. It was the reset. And eventually, they realized I wasn't bluffing. The calendar stayed blank. The diners stayed silent. The tension didn't explode, it fermented. And all I did was go about my day, quietly removing myself from every unpaid role I'd been cast in for years. I wasn't being cruel. I was being done. The ripple effect hit faster than I expected. It started with small things, missed invites, and unreturned messages. Lena's sister Monica texted me, asking why I hadn't RSVP'd to her annual spring fling cookout. I replied simply, no longer attending family events out of obligation. She didn't text back. Then, my father-in-law, Gerald, called me on a random Tuesday. He never calls. Everything okay with you and Lena? He asked. I'm fine, I said. Silence. Then, You didn't show up for her birthday lunch. She didn't show up for mine, I replied calmly. He grumbled something about not keeping score, then hung up. But I wasn't keeping score. I was just done pretending the scoreboard didn't exist. A few days later, I bumped into an old friend of mine, Colin, at the hardware store. He looked surprised. Man, you disappeared, he said. Haven't seen you at poker night in months. I shrugged. Didn't feel like playing anymore. He paused. Lena said you were too busy lately. Said you've been going through a weird funk. There it was. Her rewrite. I could almost hear her explaining it to people. Graham's just going through something. Work stress. Hormones. You know how men get. They always said I was the steady one. The easy one. Now that I'd gone quiet, she had to make up a new version of me to keep people comfortable. Because no one ever expects the quiet husband to walk away. But I wasn't just walking. I was preparing. I had opened a new savings account in my name. I had rerouted my direct deposit. I had visited a lawyer. Had the paperwork in motion to protect what was mine. I had scheduled therapy, not because I was breaking, but because I didn't want to carry any part of their failure into whatever came next. The scariest part, I realized, wasn't that they left me out. It was how easily they did it. Lena finally confronted me one night in the kitchen. I don't get it, she said, arms folded, voice tight. You're punishing us. Is that it? No, I said. I'm recalibrating. What does that even mean? It means I'm removing anything in my life that treats me like I'm disposable. She looked stunned, like I'd slapped her with a vocabulary word she didn't know how to absorb. We're your family, Graham. I looked her right in the eyes. And that used to mean something. Then I left her standing there. Not because I wanted to hurt her. I was protecting myself. It took nearly a month of silence before Lena realized this wasn't a phase. This wasn't some brooding man's sulk or cold shoulder punishment. This was departure. And not the kind with bags and slammed doors. The kind where you quietly remove yourself from a life, piece by unnoticed piece, until there's nothing left of you in it. She started trying. Not authentically. Performatively. The pantry suddenly filled with my favorite snacks again. My coffee was magically refilled every morning. A fresh bag of my usual dark roast left on the counter with a sticky note. Just because. She booked a dinner reservation at the steakhouse we used to love before the kids were born. Slid the confirmation across the table one morning like it was a peace treaty. I didn't take the bait. I didn't even show up. She waited for over an hour. I know because she texted. I'm sitting at the table. People keep looking at me like I've been stood up. I didn't reply. She came home that night furious. You're trying to humiliate me now? She snapped, voice sharp. No, I said. You did that to yourself. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. And that was the truth, wasn't it? She didn't. Because she never really saw me, just the version of me that served her. And now that version was gone. She tried guilt next. Tears in the living room. Apologies that sounded like PR statements. I didn't know you felt this way. We were just trying to give the kids one last fun trip before everything changes. I thought you'd understand. You've always been so strong. That one almost made me laugh. Because that's what they counted on, isn't it? My strength. My silence. My ability to keep carrying things no one even acknowledged. She finally broke down one morning. I don't know what to do, Graham, she whispered. Tell me how to fix it. I looked her dead in the eye. You can't fix something you don't think you broke. And that was the end of it. She stopped pretending after that. Stopped the gestures. Stopped the sugar-coated offerings. And I kept going. I booked a short-term rental. Quietly moved some things out. Day by day. Load by load. Nothing dramatic. I told her I'd be gone by the end of the month. She didn't stop me. Because by then, she knew. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a transition. And she'd already packed her bags the day she chose the slopes over my birthday. She just didn't know that at the time. The day I left, no one was home. Fitting. I packed the last box of my things into the truck. My tools, books, and photos I'd already scanned and backed up. The old watch my grandfather gave me. A worn flannel I'd had since my 20s. Everything else. They could keep it. The house felt hollow. Not because it was empty, but because I was gone from it. Everything I'd built, held together, tolerated, absent. I didn't leave a dramatic letter. I left a short note. Typed, printed, folded once. Lena, there was a version of me who would have stayed. Who would have forgiven the silence, the entitlement, the erasure. Who would have believed that shared history meant something deeper than proximity. But that man isn't here anymore. I'm not angry. I'm just free. Graham. That was it. No accusations. No poetic closure. Just truth. I slid the note under her coffee mug on the counter, where she'd find it, eventually. Probably after wondering why the Wi-Fi didn't work and why the mortgage statement didn't include my name anymore. I took one last look at the space we used to call home, and then I walked out. The cabin I rented was just outside of town, quiet, pine-shaded, with a view of the mountains that didn't feel earned until that moment. I unloaded my truck, cracked a beer, and sat on the porch as the sun went down. And for the first time in decades, I didn't feel tension in my shoulders. I wasn't waiting to be needed. I wasn't bracing for the next thing someone expected of me. I was just still. The phone stayed quiet. No calls. No apologies. No last-ditch efforts. She probably thought I was bluffing until the locks were changed, the lawyer's envelope arrived, and the silence stretched too long to explain away. Maybe she'd tell people I had a midlife crisis. Maybe she'd spin it as abandonment. That was fine. I didn't need to defend my peace. People who only knew the version of me that served them would never understand the one who finally saved himself. In the weeks that followed, I built new routines. I got up early, took walks in the cold, started reading again, talked to strangers at the coffee shop who didn't know me as the husband who paid for everything. One afternoon, while standing in line for groceries, a man asked what I did. For the first time in my life, I didn't say, "I'm a provider," or "I'm a family man." I just said, "I build things, and I don't let people tear them down anymore."